p.m. Ms. Berner, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mayor Lowry,
Here.
Councilman Grimm,
Here.
Councilwoman Nowakowski,
Here.
Councilman Rodwald,
Here.
Councilman Cobb,
Here.
Councilwoman Eggleston,
Here.
and Vice Mayor.
I'm here.
7 members present.
All right, thank you very much. And tonight's invocation will be by Councilman Ron Cobb.
Dear Heavenly Father, help us give us the guidance to do what's right for our citizens in the community. Watch over our military personnel, their families. Watch over our firefighters, EMT, paramedics, and also our first responders or deputies. And in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. And the Pledge of Allegiance, we have a helper here to hold the flag for us. Awesome. Thank you very much, sir.
Right there.
Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America
and to the
and
republic
the republic for which it stands,
one nation
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
With
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Dominic.
You're welcome.
Good job, Dominic. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, you going out and shut the door.
All right, moving on. Let's see. Action on the minutes, none. Communications, none. City manager's report, none. Comments from the members of the public. Mr. Bridge.
At this time, we do not have any.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Sure.
Committee reports, none. Resolutions and ordinances, none. Other business. Mr. Bridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of public, members of the administrative staff. Thank you all for coming tonight. So we're begin our legislation review. So what we have, we'll start with the resolutions first. And what we have up for action tonight, we have 2 for action. We actually introed 2 as well. So we have resolution 2020-19R. That is a resolution adopting a capital improvement program for the city of New Carlisle, Ohio. And then we also have resolution 2020-20R. And that is a resolution directing the city manager and director of public service to halt the bidding process for the renovation of 101 South Main Street. I think council will get to a little bit more discussion with that here shortly. And then the other resolution that we have actually introduced tonight that will actually be voted on at the 11-2 meeting, it is a replacement CIP program. So that is resolution 2021-R. And it reads the same title as before, a resolution adopting a capital improvement plan program for the city of New Carlisle. As far as your ordinances go this evening, we have 2 that are introduced and 1 will be up for action. The sole ordinance that is up for action is ordinance 2020-38. And that is an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for liability insurance with USI Insurance Services, LLC, representing the public entities pool of Ohio for the administration of said policy. And what that is that is our yearly liability insurance that we do. We've been with them for quite some time now. We do have a price rate guarantee with them. I think it ends this year, but we'll get to more on that here shortly, but we have seen yet another year of decrease in our annual premiums. So the other 2 ordinances that are just introduced tonight, these will be voted on at the 11-2 meeting, which is our first Monday in November. That is ordinance 2020-39, and ordinance amending ordinance 2020-35 for the purpose of correcting a Scrivener's error. And I'll explain that real quick. We had introduced legislation. It was voted on last meeting regarding sludge removal. There was a Scrivener's error, which is simply a clerical error that was located in section 2, I believe, where the price of the contract should not exceed $50,000 for non-traditional biosolids. It was inadvertently, there was a 1 in front of that. So we have to correct that so both things match 50,000, not one say 50,000 and one say 150,000. So that is the purpose of ordinance 2020-39. We do not do a lot of legislation with Scrivener's error. I think in the 5 years we've been here, this would be the second one that we have done. Then the last one is ordinance 2020-40. And that is an ordinance amending chapter 10066 of the codified ordinances of the city of New Carlisle, Ohio, regarding the cemeteries in general. So every year, the cemetery code says that our cemetery superintendent has to look over the prices of area cemeteries and see if we are being competitive. We haven't raised our rates in quite some time, but we do feel as though we need to suggest some rate increases to City Council. So that is, again, introduced tonight, but will be voted on at the first meeting in November, which is Monday the 2nd. Any questions on any of the legislation pieces?
Council? Make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay. So, Mr. Bridge, me and you talked earlier today.
Yes.
On the phone, and I had called you with, some concerns moving forward with the new quote unquote city building for the, the city of New Carlisle, which is, located on Main Street in Washington. And I just kind of wanted to open up the floor with council and where they feel with that. There's been discussion on how to move forward with the whole COVID thing and the I guess if you want to say the shortage of funds due to COVID and the less tax revenue that's been coming in because of that. There was talks about moving forward with not moving into the city building as a city building this coming year because of the shortcomings of the taxes and the revenue due to COVID, and the discussion of moving the substation into the old World Threads building and putting off moving in the city building for a couple of years until we see how COVID plays out and where the city's finances are in the future. I don't know where all of council stands on how they would like to move forward with that issue. I for one initially was kind of for the idea of maybe putting in the substation into that location temporarily till the city decides where its finances were and how to move forward with those finances and the city building itself. For those of you that may not have heard or need to be kept up to date, when the city bought the old World Threads building, it would have created kind of a domino effect, and I think it was a great idea initially because we would have moved into the city to the new city building, which is the old World Threads, which would have opened up our current city building, which we now own because the people who we were renting it off of at the time wanted out from the building. So therefore we were kind of put into a place to buy it because we didn't have a home to go to. So we now own that building. So the plan was to move forward, move into the old World Threads building as a new city building. And then the police substation would move into our old city building. And then we could knock down the substation because it's a very old and out of shape building for those of you that have been in it or know much about it. And then we could have knocked that down and extended the parking lot at the fire station because that is a real narrow parking lot there. But with that being said, I was on board with holding off. I mean, COVID, kind of hit, and threw everybody off, not just New Carlisle, just, in general, the world as a whole. But I think we would be better off just to let the building go, cut our losses and put it up for sale. I know we could put the substation in there and we could put some city storage in there and whatnot, but I really don't want to move forward, because we don't know how much we're going to nickel and dime ourselves holding on to this building. And if we were moving into it this year, or even, sometime late next year, we might have a better idea. But with everything that's going on in the world and the uncertainty of what's going to come next year, I would like to just see us cut our losses and get rid of the building and move forward with what we have until we have a better outlook of what the city is going to look like in the near future financially.
Before council gets into the discussion, I would like to add some things, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Please, by all means.
You guys can have a good picture of how to move forward with discussion.
Actually, Mr. Bridge, let me cut you off one more second. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
I do want to thank you again, though, for seriously everything that you have put in on this project specifically. I mean, obviously you're the city manager and Colleen as well. But you and Colleen and your staff have been working hard at this, along with council actually. So I do want to thank you again for all the time that you've put in on and off the clock. You do a great job, and you do a thorough job, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for the compliment. It's awesome to hear that. And we will, as your administrative team, we'll always work with discretion of council. So, but I just want to let the public know how this kind of came about. At the 10-5 meeting, which was our last meeting, we had an ordinance out there for us to go ahead with the bidding process. And that ordinance failed 4-2. On the surface, it seems like when we take into account that Mr. Cobb was absent at that meeting, and I would have just assumed, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Cobb, that you probably would have voted no against that. So that vote would have been 4-3. So since it was so close to that vote, I wanted to bring in the mayor and vice mayor and just present some new information to you, because I was not comfortable with that vote. Because if we would have went through the bids and they would have came back and one of those fours would have said no, then the whole project would have been dead in the water. So at that point in time, the next morning, on that Tuesday morning, I wanted to have a meeting with the mayor and vice mayor. And Ms. Harris had brought some new information into me regarding our finances and COVID, and it's really difficult to forecast the future with our revenue streams coming in just due to COVID. So at that point in time, I had suggested that not only do it's just like a reuse of that building downtown, and half of it was for the substation. If you walk in that building, it's literally split in the left and the right by a hallway, and anything on the right side is basically one big long room with separated walls, but you can lock and shut all the doors. So we wanted to put the substation over there. And then we also wanted to take the other half and turn it into a conference center for the city. We do not have a city conference room. It's very small. And when you bring auditors in or developers in, it's almost borderline embarrassing. So we wanted to take the other half of that building and make it, the first 2 rooms, a conference room for us to bring people in, and have a smart board in there that we can have our staff meetings in there, administrative meetings with certain council members, and a place to go. And then the room behind that, we could have moved city storage. And what that would have done is it would have facilitated us to go ahead and get through with the other much needed capital projects. And that is raising the substation and then expanding the parking lot of the fire station. The substation is in absolute horrible condition. It is not a good environment to walk in. So that's, in a nutshell, what we had presented to council, as far as retaining that building for a couple of years and get some use out of it, a much needed use that would allow other projects to go on, and then kind of reevaluate that situation in a couple of years when we feel as though the finances are getting a little better streamed with the COVID response. So I just wanted to give that piece of information to the council members and the public so they have a better understanding what's going on, and I do appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All good points. And I would agree. I mean, the substation, I haven't been there in 5 years. It is a very poor shaped building. And then, the parking lot, even though it's a parking lot, that's also could be, if you look at it as a safety issue for cars trying to get in there to show up to do a run. I mean, that's definitely something that needs to be looked at in the near future. But thank you very much for those points, Mr. Bridge. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions? Mr. Cobb.
I agree with you. We need to cut our losses down there and move on. And a couple other things that Vice Mayor Cook and I have talked about. We're going to take down the old Madison Street School. And I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about that later on in the future. We can take back there and build the city and the fire department together. That way each shares a cost into building the building. We have plenty of land down there to do it. Also, you can move the sheriff temporary right now on their own property with a small module to get them by. You don't need a big one in there because they're not in there that much. And we do need to sit down and start working on, I guess like Vice Mayor Cook calls it, like a retreat. We start figuring how to save money and how to spend our money. And I know you also, I heard it talked about wanting to have a town hall meeting, Mr. Mayor. That I'm in favor of too. Let's see what the citizens input is. That's what I agree with right now, is just cutting our losses and moving on. we can still utilize what we got. And then maybe 4 years down the road, let's combine the city hall and the fire department all together over there on the Madison Street School. That way everybody can start saving. They both split the cost of it. Let's bring a small module in for the sheriff right there on that property for right now. You know, that's the solution I see. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Mr. Bridge, I actually had a quick question for you, if you don't mind. What would, where would we be, or, you know, because contractually, we do not have to provide, do we have to provide the substation at all? And I'm not saying I don't want it, but I mean, it doesn't, I mean, it's not.
They need a place for them to do. I mean, our contractor deputies still do reports on behalf of the city. So yeah, they're going to need a place to go and have a place to sit down and do reports.
Right.
That they do in New Carlisle, pull people over and all that stuff. So we need to have a place for our 4 deputies to go.
Okay.
5 deputies, sorry.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments on this? Mr. Roadwall, I think I seen.
Yeah, a couple things. To first address the Madison School tear down, rebuild. I'm not in favor of putting a city building over there. I think the streets are too narrow. And when you talk about moving a fire station over there, I don't think the infrastructure on that backside of the old town could handle that much traffic. So, I mean, obviously we need to tear down the school, and that's in the works. But I think that land would probably be better suited for a developer over there. And as for the Main Street building, I'm in favor of what Mr. Bridge says. I think our better use right now would be to utilize it for a substation and a meeting for the city employees.
Okay.
I think that the police substation, I had been in there, and it needs to go. You know, good strong wind, that thing will probably fall.
I'll get you, Colleen.
I don't think putting it up for sale right now, why retail or why home sales are doing really well. If you look at commercial sales are not. I mean, if we're going to have to sit on for 4 years, we might as well try to utilize it for those 3 or 4 years, depending on the cost of what it's going to take to get it up to what we need for our police officers. But I think just sitting on it and just watching it waste is not a good look for the city. That's another vacant building downtown. So that's just my opinion.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Colleen, you're muted.
Is it up now? Unmute.
There you go. There you go.
I wanted to also add, part of what is in the substation are our records. And we have a lot of records in there. We have no storage here in this building. We've already been utilizing the cemeteries building. That room is not good and it's overflowing. We have things up in the attic and that in the substation. We're past our limit. So that is a lot of the other need if we are able to move the substation and give them their need into that building. We've got some estimated pricing, Randy and I and Derek have been working on. We can get it really minimal to get them up because there's no fabrication. It's just carpet paint and cleaning, and they can be in. Our records will be in a safe, dry place, which is our responsibility fiscally. We have archives in there that are just, it worries me in the condition that they're in. So that's another big need. And we're talking, Randy can share what we've been working on, but it's really minimal and we can have them in at the end of the year.
Please do, Colleen, share the number that we're working with.
27,000.
30. I put 15.
30 for a little overflow. So it's 15 police budget, 15 general fund, 30,000. And we've got good quotes already coming in just to give you some idea, because it's not moving walls and it's not using the upstairs, but it'll be good floor, good paint. It'll look a lot better when you are ready to move them out. But the substation, if you guys haven't been there in a while, it's horrible.
It is.
I just had to put that in there.
Yeah. Another thing
Um,
too, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Well, yeah, I just had a quick question for Ms. Harris, and I think I'd asked Randy this earlier. What kind of cost do you think will be associated with that building? What, if the deputies move into there, what kind of monthly cost are we looking at as far as just general, I guess, I'm sure you're going to have minor maintenance. I asked Randy earlier, maybe a faucet springs a leak, or, heating and cooling and things like that. I mean, what kind of money are we looking at as a month? I mean, because obviously we own the building. So what kind of monthly cost do we have?
Can I take that first, Colleen?
Sure.
So we did, and I don't interrupt you, but Colleen's still new, and I don't know if she knows the bill situation like that, and she's done a fantastic job. But right now we do pay 2 DP nail bills and 2 veteran bills. So let's say we go through with the project that's planned and move the substation down there. We're no longer have to pay at the substation. That's going to be demoed. And between the 2 buildings, it is going to be cheaper, I think, to upkeep and the building downtown, because quite frankly, it's in a much better shape. And then 2, this is why I want to interject, Colleen, I do apologize. There's actually 2 different heating and cooling systems in there, one for the second floor and one for the main floor. So we could actually zone heat the place, and the bills are not much on a monthly basis. But long-term, I think it's going to be cheaper to deal actually with the building that's downtown because of that zone heating and just because it's in better shape. Sorry, Ms. Harris.
No, thank you, Mr. Bridge. Awesome. I know this was another question I had, and I know no one here is a realtor. We know houses are flying off the shelf, but commercial space, retail space. I mean, does anybody have an idea of how that's doing at this time? Or, it's like a poker game. You just never know what hand you're going to get dealt, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Business buildings downtown do not sell.
Okay.
I know the people that bought Stephanie and Smith and her husband John, they paid pittance for the building where the cafe is now.
Oh, the new owners of Penny Lane.
Yeah.
Well, no, the people that made it Penny Lane, John and
Okay.
the building across the street at the corner of Main and Washington, across the street from the World Threads building, it was for sale forever for dirt cheap, and it took forever to sell. I don't even know if it ever did sell. No, it's hard to sell. The only 2 buildings that sold quickly, my building because I wanted it, and Rick's jewelry store building because Dan Barker wanted it. He had visions for it. But the rest of them, they don't sell.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Bridge.
Yeah, sorry, just my notes are popping up as we're going along. And one of the I meant to mention on that second floor, because I want council to have an informed decision. That whole second floor is something that should just go through with half the substation and then half of it for city conference and storage. There is a big open second floor, and what we plan on doing with that, me and Colleen were just kind of talking around. We can actually have our employee Christmas party up there. We can make it real nice. When we have festivals downtown, the sheriff's office can actually use that as a lookout because it's a great view of Main Street. So that second floor, it is big open space. We can use it for a little bit of dry storage, but it's another location we actually can use for additional storage if we just need. So just in case anyone is wondering about that second floor use, that was the intent with it.
Okay. Mr. Grimm.
That $30,000, is that just the side where the deputies would be, or is that including the conference room?
Everything.
Includes both?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So me and Colleen went down and visited the substation. There's about 3 desks that are in okay shape. One is for sure can come down. So when it comes to additional stuff that we would need to get, I would have to get a conference table for us to put in. I want to get a flat screen TV. Those aren't too expensive. So when we want to project something on there, if we have a 10-seat council chamber, a conference table, and we've got auditors in there, and we need to all look at the same document, we can have it on a 50-inch screen TV and just Chromecast it there and get it up on that device some sort of way. And I would like to just get a small table for the police to have in that first room. So if they need to have a little meeting space, they can have 2. But all those things are minimal. Really, the big cost is the flooring and the paint, because if council decide to put that on the market, council has to understand we actually went to start abating that to remove the asbestos. So We got some big patches of carpet on the first floor that are gone that we'd have to replace, probably get carpet the whole thing. And then we have also started taking down the ceiling tiles so the architect could see what was underneath there. So we're going to put some money into it, even put it back on the market or put it on as is and list it for even less than what we have. So I think moving forward with it, just the minimal cost we have, like I said, we're trying to keep it in that 27. We got a little 3,000 in there for overages, but I think it's very doable with the budget that we have.
And then we could use the second or third floor for storage.
Yes, but yeah, the second floor would have to be like light storage. We couldn't put records up there because there's only one steel beam in the back of the building. When we originally was looking at there to put council chambers on the second floor, we would have to put additional support. So what that means is we can't have big sections of massive storage units up there. We wanted to put Christmas displays up there, or the flags that go on the light posts downtown, or Heritage of Flight needs to put some stuff up there for the parade, barricades. That is perfect for it.
That's on the second floor.
Yes, sir.
What about the third floor?
It's a very small area. It's not the whole length of the building. It's really just like the front quarter of the building. So we could use it for additional storage too, but it's not as expansive and massive as that.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Question in regards to the record storage. When was the last time we purged any records? And if we can go ahead and purge those records that we have, some of those records, in the sheriff's storage, I think we need to get that done prior to doing anything else before we would move those downtown, because moving those back and forth, I think, would be ludicrous.
Yeah, we intended on doing that, and we haven't done it in a few years. So we got a lot of records on the second floor of the substation that are up for complete destruction. On that main floor storage, there's a lot that we have to keep, but some is up for destruction down there as well. But we do plan on doing a destruction event well before we move all that stuff.
Good, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yep.
Mr. Cobb.
What is our plan down the future road for that building?
For the
One of Main Washington.
well, it's in the CIP for 2025 for to be converted to the city building, if I got it. Yeah. So
Okay, you go 5 years down the road, if you've got a figure of 850,000 right now, you better double that price in 25. Every year the price goes up on stuff like that. We're never going to recuperate our money if we dump that kind of money in that building. And I just can't see spending that kind of money in that old building. If you want to leave the sheriff there, that's fine. But other than that, we need to sell it and cut our loss and move on. And like Dale said, them buildings aren't selling downtown. When we went and looked at that building, it had been up for sale for 5 years.
What building?
The one we bought, that was up prior for 5 years. It was for sale.
I don't remember that. I know we were pretty aggressive once it hit the listing that we were on it. If it was up prior to that, I'm not privy, but I know when we bought it, it wasn't on the market for 5 years.
When I talked to the realtor, it had been on the market for 5 years and had not sold.
It may have been on the market 5 years prior, but it was not on the market for 5 years when we bought it, because the realtor was Tammy Holmes, and we were pretty aggressive with getting it. It was only on the market. Now, I'm not saying like years, like before they tried to sell it, it may have been on there for 5 years. I don't know, but when we did, it definitely wasn't.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I, Mr. Kitco, if you don't mind me asking a quick question, I can't remember if we'd already asked you this or not. I know if we'd move forward with putting the police station into this building, and like I said, I know we talked about this. I can't remember if you were in the meeting. What would it, ballpark cost you think to tear down the old substation?
10,000.
I would say you'd be probably less than 10.
Okay. And then I think you did say maybe 15 to extend the parking lot, possibly somewhere around there.
Oh, from the last meeting? Yeah, somewhere in there off the cuff.
Okay. So you're looking around $25,000. If we move forward with this project this year with the substation moving to the Main Street building, would that, is that in is that would that be doable for next year?
I didn't hear the question. What was it? I'm sorry.
If we move forward with moving the substation, would that be a doable project for 2021?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think Colleen, you can jump in on this one because you're the finance person.
We actually have it still in this year's budget. It just, if we have enough time, so it'll move over to next year if it's not been finished. So the little bit of money to get the substation moved into the building that you already bought that's downtown is minimal. The money to tear down and to put the parking lot, I believe, is mostly in the capital existing. And that gets these projects moving forward. It's not going to be, vacant. It can happen fairly quick.
Okay, thank you. Chief, mind if I ask you a question?
Go ahead, sir.
If we were to move forward with this, and the fire department has had that size of a parking lot for a while. I mean, realistically though, I would assume that opens you up for, a little bit quicker movement and, a little bit more safer of a facility, correct?
Definitely. We've had some near misses in the parking lot, crews coming in for runs. But the biggest thing I look at right now, Mayor, is the fact that the building that the deputies are in right now is unsafe. Plain and simple, it's unsafe for those deputies to be in there. That's one of the reasons why last year the fire department had the other room upstairs and we had quite a bit of stuff up there. We had a dumpster brought in and we completely emptied that room because I'm scared to death, being honest. I'm scared to death one of these days we're going to start digging deputies out of the first floor because the second floor is going to be on top of them.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Ms. Nowakowski.
Is there going to be a parking issue using the Main Street property for the substation?
No, because they currently take their cars home.
Okay.
So they drive their cruiser to and from work.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Nowakowski?
Nope.
All right. Anyone? I think I saw Miss Eggleston first. I'm not sure.
I think Dale was first.
No, go ahead. Ladies first.
Huh?
That assumes she's a lady.
I'm being nice.
I think our smartest move right now buildings downtown are not selling. Look at all of the empty businesses we've got down there. If the substation is not safe, we need to get the deputies out of there, move them into the Main Street building, set up the conference room, and then we can see where COVID hits us, how COVID affects us more, and we can move the city building, get the city building down there eventually.
Right. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Grimm.
A couple of questions. The records that we're storing at the substation, is there room in the downtown building for all of those?
Yes. Yep. We got a whole big back room, and if any council member wants to come see the building tomorrow, that's great because the resolution we're introducing tonight is not we voted on the next meeting anyway. But yes, it is. That building is almost perfectly set up for what we need to do. We have a big room in the back that are near the restrooms, and this is on the left side if you're walking in, and it's a rather large room. And right across the hall from that is another equally large room that we are going to divide with storage on our side, so we can have our unsensitive storage in that shared room with the sheriff's office, so they can have a little bit of storage as well. So be more than happy to take some council members down so you can see how we're thinking about setting it up. But yes, to answer your question, Mr. Gwynn, there will be plenty of room for permanent record storage down there. So we also have storage going on at the cemetery building as well for our most current records that we do need to keep.
Are we allowed to use a store and lock to store records?
A what?
A store and lock.
A store and lock, like an outdoor thing?
Like what's up across from the pool?
Yeah, where you pay to, storage locker basically.
You pay to store stuff. It's secure.
they won't maintain, they need to really be in an environment with heat and air. If they get wet and damp, then they ruin and you get mold on your permanent records. We already had a water issue down at the sheriff's substation a few years ago, and they ruined some of our records also. So we have to keep them up, and we have to keep them in an area that at least it maintains the quality of them until they're ready to, some destroy and some are permanent.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Did I have Ms. Eggleston?
Mr. Bridge, you mentioned we've got storage at the cemetery too. From what I understand, that building is in pretty bad shape also. Is there enough room at the Main Street building to put that, to move that storage there also?
Yes, yes. We'll have enough room to combine both storage locations into the one. We would have, we're gonna do some record destruction beforehand, of course, but the 2 rooms that we'd be using are ample enough size.
And do we have records stored anywhere else?
Oh, in our city building, we have some record storage, some old maps that we have, and we got quite a few filing cabinets out in that lobby as well, where your guys' mailbox are.
Yeah, but the Main Street building would be able to handle all of the storage, so everything would be in the same place.
Yeah, yeah. And ideally, like in the audit, when the auditors come in and do an audit, they do the previous year. So in 2020, they're in 2019. So that would work out perfectly for them because they would have all that current year's records right there in that room, or room right behind them when they're doing our audit. And then it keeps the foot traffic down at the city building. And right now we have, there's last year's about 2019 finance boxes all against Angela's back thing, just stored in banker's box. So there's definitely a need for professional permanent storage. Yes.
You good, Ms. Eggleston?
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Make sure. I had one for Mrs. Harris. I'm going to hit you with a really big, hard question, and it doesn't matter what you say because technically the weight falls on us. But in your honest, professional opinion, you think the better move would be to hold on to it and move forward with what we've discussed? You're muted.
Oh, it's not.
You're
Okay,
good.
can you hear me? Okay.
There you go.
Yes, and thank you for asking the question. I think it's a positive with what you have in that building because you're not changing a lot. It's cosmetic. It gets the sheriffs in a safe place, gets our records in a safe place. And in a few years, as we save for that municipal move, things can change. But that building is perfect for these needs that we have right now. And it's very minimal impact on our current budget. Shouldn't really impact very much for next year either. So I hope that we can move forward with it. I really feel it's a positive.
Okay, great. And I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate your time you've put in on this and your opinion on it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me see. I'm bouncing between screens and make sure I'm not missing anybody. Did anybody else have any comments or questions on this topic? Okay, it doesn't look like it. So did I miss somebody? Okay. So, all right. Well, we, I guess, are finished up on that topic. Does anybody, Mr. Bridge, did you have something?
No. It's got a lot of devices going on here.
Okay, no problem. So, all right. Any other, Mr. Cobb?
Mr. Bridge.
Yes, sir.
Remember a while back we had discussed the 1034.
The what?
I got to be careful how I say it. The 10 and the 34 due to the virus.
Okay.
1036.
1036. Excuse me. Remember we had discussed and talked about that.
I don't know what the 1036 means. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't want to say it on here.
In regards to the previous discussion about saving money,
Everyone's got the same weird look.
no, he.
Sorry. I tell
Except
you what,
those of us who aren't in on it.
it may trigger something, but Is that a raw number, the 1036, or is that a time?
That's a hyperventilated situation.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm clearly missing something. I do apologize. But if it's anything employee related, let's just talk about it off camera, and then we'll take it. Okay. Sure. Sorry.
You got him, Mr. Cobb.
You did. You did.
All right.
I'm not following this, but I'm making notes so I can look on the break.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions on anything else before we wrap this one up? Mr. Vice Mayor.
I have a question in regards to this revised CIP.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume that, again, this is basically like a wish list. So if we go ahead with the authorization on this revamped CIP, and I'm assuming that we do some changes next year, is this a doable situation to make changes in this major plan next year?
Oh, absolutely. And part of the requirements is we have to have the CIP to you a certain amount of time before we do the budget. But anything that we submit to you guys, we'll have a chance to in 2021 when we do the next year's CIP to amend anything in the future. Absolutely. The CIP is a document that can be amended. I don't want to get back into the thing. I think last year, the year before, we amended it almost 4 times. But that is your 3 to 5 year plan. And it is a wish list in a way because we don't carry over millions of dollars of fund balances. But yes, to answer your question in a short about way, anything is amendable.
Anything else, Mr. Vice Mayor?
No, I think that'll get me out of the grease.
All right, and let me go back over here. Nobody's got their hand up. Mr. Kitco looks thrilled.
As he always does.
All right, if no one else has anything else, we can have that special motion.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
First by Cobb, second. I'm not sure who the second was, to be honest.
It was this is
Okay, Ms. Eagles. And also, real quick, before you call for the vote, that was a very good discussion. I appreciate everybody's input and professionalism on that. Good job, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we ready?
We are ready.
Vice Mayor Cook,
Yes.
Mayor Lowry,
Yes.
Councilman Grimm,
Yes.
Councilman Nowakowski,
Yes.
Councilman Rodwald,
Yes.
Councilman Cobb.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Eggleston.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn accepted, 7-0.
All right. We'll see everybody shortly for the 7 o'clock meeting. Thank you.
Let me
All
have
right.
this bridge real quick.
Hey,
Hold
Kate.
up, hold up.
No, as long as we're off the
Oh, yeah, we gotta make sure we're good.
1 second. There's a delay